Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. Sitting here, quite easy for me to say. Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. I'm sitting here with my good friend, Mr. Max Carlisle. How are you?
Great. How you doing?
I'm really good. So, Max, you may have noticed, has a channel called Guitar Max.
Yes.
And he is a guitar player. Dun, dun, dun. So for this Fact Friday, we thought we'd make it all guitar questions. Now, as you know, we always do a guitar of the week, and you happen to be holding a guitar
Yes.
that you love. So tell me about this guitar.
Yeah, this is a fantastic guitar and something a little bit different, right? First glance, it's a Strat body shape, but there's some unique features on here. This is a PJD Woodford Classic. And when I first got this, I think they had just launched the Woodford line, so they've kind of expanded it by now. But it's just a really, really slick, beautifully made Strat type guitar. It's an ash body. It's fairly heavy, and it's got a roasted maple neck, Indian rosewood fretboard, 22 frets, nice tall frets, which I really love.
Right.
Great, clearance off the fretboard. Bare knuckle pickups. I hope the mic can pick this up, but listen to this switch.
Really, you can.
Yeah, it's one of the most wonderful sounding selector switches I've ever used.
But it's very defined. It means you know when you're in the right pickup
like a
section.
Telecaster where it goes chunk. When it's like that, but it's a 5-way.
Nice.
Strat. I love that. That's what. Sometimes I just pick up the guitar and I just do that. And
I love it.
We've got volume and tone controls, and that's pretty much it. All matte finish, which I love, especially on the neck.
Especially on the neck. Yeah, I love the matte neck.
Yeah, wonderful. And nice, big, chunky, very crisp sound, which we'll hear later on, but it's great.
Fantastic. How much is it?
These are around 1,000 pounds.
So
euros,
maybe 1,100.
Yeah, 1,200 in that range. And I say that because these are made in England.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not a mass-produced guitar, so
No.
$1,200, if that's what the exchange rate is, don't shoot me if I'm wrong, is a pretty darn good price for a guitar that's hand-built in York. We looked up in York, in Yorkshire, of course.
Yeah, and when you get one of these, you have some options, right? You can choose the color, you can choose the pickup configuration, that kind of stuff. So it's they start you with the foundation, and then you can make a few modifications to it as you choose.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would classify this as a affordable boutique guitar.
Yes.
There you go.
Very well said.
You know me, I like Yamaha in particular because they make affordable guitars, but this is an entry-level affordable boutique guitar.
Now, you say Yamaha or Yamaha?
I say Yamaha.
Okay.
How do you say it?
Yamaha.
Yamaha. Sounds the same to me.
Maybe it's the accent.
I'm sure it is. So we do have a pedal that was sent in by... Well, I was doing this live stream on Instagram the other day, and one of the followers said, "Oh, I build pedals. Can I send it to you just to try out?" And they did. And it is Dom, and his company is called Dominator Pedals. And so Max, being a bit of a... Can I call you a metalhead? Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Being a metalhead.
Yes.
And this pedal way there, let's look at this name. It's the Dominator Medusa Hellfire Black. And you can get it on Reverb. And there's no money exchanged hands. It was just a generous gift. And we thought, let's try it out and see how it sounds.
And with a name like that and the way it looks, how can we not? All right, let's check out this pedal. And to start with, I have to say this is possibly the most metal name of any overdrive or distortion pedal I've ever, any pedal really. The Dominator Hellfire Medusa Black. Try saying that 5 times fast. Look at the design of this pedal. You've got the skull there. You have 5 very cryptic looking knobs, one nice big toggle there. I like that the toggle is far away from the knob, so if you really mash it with your steel-toed boots, you're not going to mess up your settings or anything like that. But let's listen to how this thing sounds. Now I'm going to be playing through my lovely PJD Woodford Classic. It's a ash body, roasted maple neck, Strat body, got bare knuckle pickups here. And here's my sound, natural sound without the pedal. Let's turn the pedal on. Very chunky. I like that a lot. Now, we're going to go ahead and mess with these knobs here. You might notice that there's no labels on these knobs. There's sort of a key, a sort of decoder list on the back of the pedal, and we'll get a shot of that to include here so you can take a look at that. But right out of the box, we just flip this thing on. That has a really nice, big, thick, chunky sound. Very snarly. Very raw sounding, not too compressed. The sound really likes power chords well. It's not the most articulate sound. If you listen to a big open chord, those big open chords, some of the notes get a little bit lost in there because there's so much going on at once. But a nice tight power chord sounds fantastic. Okay, let's check out these knobs here. Now, the three on the top are going to be your basic EQ section. This is treble, middle, bass. And let's just mess around with the middle control there. Let's see if we can get a scooped sound. Let's bump up the treble and bass. Bring down the middle. That's going to take your head off, right? Very metal. Okay, let's balance these back out, and let's see if we can clean it up a little bit. I mean, the Dominator, Hellfire, Medusa black pedal, despite the name, I think it can do some gentler tones. So let's see if we can get some of that going on here. If you want to make your next doom metal album, this might be a great choice for that. Listen to that. very chunky, very dynamic. It's very percussive sounding, right? Now, you can back the gain down even more, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, it's the Dominator Hellfire Medusa pedal. You want to have the gain up. But yeah, so far I'm pretty impressed with it. I mean, it's an awesome looking pedal. Like I said, it's not a super gainy, fuzzy, like super high gain pedal. It has a very big, raw sound to it. This pedal is available for around $180. You can find it on Reverb. And yeah, I think if you're looking for a really unique pedal with a really raw, powerful, in-your-face, cut-your-head-off type sound, and who isn't looking for that? I mean, I think this one here is going to be a really good choice.
So let's do some FAQ Friday questions.
Yes.
Do older guitars sound better than newer guitars?
Well, some old guitars sound better than new guitars. I mean, people always talk about the aging process of the wood and resonance and that kind of thing. But I've played some old guitars that sounded disastrous. I mean, it was just like a 6-string
right, I know.
Apocalypse, not in a good way. I mean, it was, yeah, I suppose if the guitar has been loved and well maintained and that kind of thing, then I would say, in general, yes.
My opinion on that is, I've got some old guitars. I've got some fun ones. I've got like a Gibson Les Paul from 1978, which I absolutely love. Now, it's hardly a 50s, Les Paul or something, but I do have like a 62 Guild Starfire, which I love. I think there's a romanticism with old anything, old consoles, old, microphones. I think if it's something that cannot be made anymore because the parts aren't available, the woods, whatever it might be, then I think it makes some sense, something that is irreplaceable. But it's pretty hard to sort of justify, at least for me, spending $250,000 on some, vintage guitar. I've played a lot with a capital A lot of like Les Pauls from the 50s and 60s. And some of them play and sound beautiful and some of them don't. And I've played Les Pauls that are made within the last few years, which are absolutely superb as well. I'll tell you one thing, just to prove my point. Tim Pierce talked about this a few years ago. What he likes to do is buy old pickups and put them in brand new guitars. So if he gets like old paths and put them in a brand new Les Paul that's been totally intonated beautifully set up, no dead spots anywhere on the neck, you can bend 2 tones, no choking, but puts in the old pickups. He maintains, and I believe him, that he gets the sound.
Right.
Because so much of the sound of the guitar is the pickups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not taking anything away from some beautiful vintage piece of ebony or mahogany or whatever it might be. But, this is going to start a big fight. Please have the fight below. We'd like to know. What new musical skills have you learned in the last 6 months?
Not so much that I have learned like brand new, like I never knew it before, but there are certain things that I'm constantly trying to improve. And I feel like I make breakthroughs in them. It's the kind of thing where you work on it for a long time and then suddenly you break through.
Like what? Any particular techniques?
Vibrato, I think, is a great example of that.
Right.
If I listen to my vibrato from 5 years ago, I think it sounds like complete garbage. And I'm sure, the speed is all wrong, or I'm not bending enough. I like a nice wide vibrato.
Yeah.
And, a really weak vibrato, like not bending enough, is, when I hear that, I can't stand it at all. But I'm sure, and so lately, past 6 months, I feel like I've really made some improvements in that. But it's the kind of thing where 5 years from now, I'll probably listen to my vibrato today, and I'll think I was out of my mind.
Ah, interesting. I think for me, I remember going through that in my early 20s, just obsessing for a couple of years on bending and vibrato, obsessing. But for me, I broke my wrist about 5 months ago, and I broke my wrist, and I was able, luckily, they put on these really modern casts, not like the old ones you used to have, and I was able to move my fingers. So I was able to keep practicing just using my fingers. I couldn't stretch or anything, and I would just do like on the top 2 strings on the guitar, just here, practice these things. And I realized I couldn't zip around because it was very restrictive, but what I could do was do more right hand stuff.
Yeah.
So by being restricted, I suddenly realized that my left hand technique is pretty good with legato stuff, but my right hand technique was average at best. So I started like practicing like chromatic runs, but doing 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then I started doing it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5, and then I would write down like 8 6 3 5 4 1 and play like and change note after different things. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't doing 12 hours a day of right hand technique, but because it was the only thing I was concentrating on, I did actually get better. So in the last 6 months, being forced by having restricted left hand, my right hand technique got better.
It's amazing how having limitations sometimes makes you more innovative
definitely.
in the way your techniques and that kind of thing.
Great metaphor for life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, about 3.5 years ago, I tore my bicep on my left arm, and complete tear, like it tore it off the bone completely. And I had to have surgery on it to, they bolted it back together and everything. And I had a cast on for a while and then a brace and that kind of thing. And one of the key things is when you mess up your bicep, you can't rotate your hand.
Oh, yeah.
And so my hand was stuck in this position.
Yeah.
And so I could play guitar if I held the guitar with the neck up like that.
Wow.
And then as it healed and I did the physical therapy and all that, then I could slowly lower the neck of the guitar. And then I still couldn't do vibrato because, all the wrist-based vibrato.
Right.
And then that was sort of the last thing to come back. But yeah, I'm glad you've healed up.
Oh yeah, it was pretty scary at first. When it first happened, I was pretty terrified.
Yeah.
But then, we're in LA, and the thing about being in LA is like, God, there's so many great guys out here. I went to this surgeon, and he treated so many musicians. I won't say who they are because they probably don't want to be busted, but so many great musicians. And when they put this special like super lightweight cast, and I was so paranoid, and he's like, no, as long as you don't put any weight on your wrist where it's all torn to pieces and you just use your fingers, you can keep the mobility, because that's why I was terrified. I went on a big holiday about 3 years ago, and we went to Europe for a whole month because my family in England, my wife's family's in Poland. We went and visited Rome. We did all of this stuff. I didn't play guitar for a whole month, which was terrifying. And I got back, and it was like, it wasn't like I was starting again, but I really felt like I'd lost something. Yeah. So I suddenly thought 3 months of this, I was like so terrified. So the secret is just doing what you can and keeping the mobility going. I wasn't doing any of this, but I was just keeping the mobility going enough that when I started to play again, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So God bless it. All right, last question. This is really open to interpretations.
Yeah.
What qualities make a good guitarist?
Yeah, I mean, this could go so many directions. I mean, a good guitarist that's in a band that you're in, or a good guitarist in the studio, or a good guitarist in terms of their creativity, that kind of stuff. I mean, I think anybody who's been in a band has dealt with people who are fantastic musicians, but really difficult to get along with, right?
That's the one thing that comes to my mind when I see that question. It's like, be easy to get on with.
Yeah. Be easygoing, be easy to get along with. Somebody who maybe is not super precious with their ideas, right? It's like they come up with an idea, and are they willing to, if you're working in a band where it's like a group writing situation, you can't be so rigid where it's like, no, the riff has got to be this way, and that's the only way it can be, that kind of stuff. That just makes everything more difficult. That's something I've had to work on. I used to have a solo band, right? And yeah, I want, it's like, look, why do you want to change it? You're just going to make it worse. The way I wrote it is the best it can possibly be, right? Like, that used to be my attitude about that kind of stuff. But it's like, well, no, that's like the last kind of personality-wise, that you want to work with.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing. I mean, and now on the same topic, what do you think about a guitar player who is just really, really good at one thing versus somebody who's decent but at a variety of things?
It was interesting because when we were choosing questions, another one was talking about like the right guitar for the job, and I didn't want to do that one because I felt like Oh yeah, it's such a huge can of worms because it was a question of like, do you need a shredding guitar for heavy metal? And
Yeah, it's a whole video.
it's a whole video.
Yeah.
And we all know there's so many metalheads that play Les Pauls and there's guys that play a standard Strat. Yngwie Malmsteen plays like a pre-CBS Strat.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever said that you can't shred on that. You know, he's using like freaking 60, 70-year-old pickups and still manages to make it sing. So that's a whole 5-hour video. But when I think about it, there was a really good video. I think Phil McKnight did it, who we were talking about the other day, really great guy. And he did a video on like, you're better off having like one guitar that you can play so beautifully, meaning, you know, like you know the neck, you know every inch of it, and you can just shred around on it, then you aren't necessarily having like 15 different things. And the reason why I knew that as an analogy is it's almost like a player as well. If you're really, really good at a genre, there's enough work actually to get hired. You know, because like a lot of like the modern shredders, for instance, they don't actually do much of what we consider like classic feel playing. They're not big on the bends with like, you know, really beautifully held vibrato. You know, that they always make the joke that's kind of boomer music and all that kind of stuff, you know. But they're thinking in a different way. They're thinking more like, you know, like pinching, not even pinching harmonics, but getting strange sounds and creating like really weird kind of harmonic ideas that really rub and create tension. And that's just a different way of playing. So they really kind of proved a point. If you're that good at that genre, you can make a living. If you happen to be the best feel guitar player in the world, you could probably make a living. It's not as modern, obviously, as now, but I just feel like knowing something really well, because I'm a big fan of all kinds of guitar players. Jeff Beck is probably my favorite guitar player, and he's all feel. There's no, I don't hear him do any semitone runs of anything. He always works around pentatonics and just pushes to the note that he wants to achieve. But he uses really just one scale shape and then bends to the notes and creates all that feel, and it's so amazing, emotion in his playing. But at the same time, I like Brian May. I love Robert Fripp. I love all of the blues greats, all of them. I grew up from B.B. King and Charlie Patton and Lightning Hopkins. So to me, it's like, I like them all for the same reason. When you put on a record, you know who that player is straight away.
Yes, yeah.
And I think one thing that might be, and I should throw this back to you, it's a problem in production. I'm sure it's a problem in guitar playing where everybody is learning the same techniques from the same people maybe, or the same records. And you start to close your eyes and you're like, 5 different guitar players playing, you're like, I don't know which one's which. It's been said of drummers, it's been said of production, obviously, said of anything. I think being a stylist and having your own unique thing is actually really powerful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with what does the musician want to accomplish themselves.
Right.
And, you know, there are some situations, right, where sounding like other people is an advantage.
Sure,
you know,
in sessions, great.
Yes, if you're a session player or you're a for-hire touring player or something like that, and they need somebody, you know, we need somebody now who sounds like so-and-so, then if you've got that skill, fantastic. But, you know, and if that's your goal, great. But if you want the true sort of rock star status and you want to be a pioneer, certainly, that kind of stuff, then yeah, you have to stand out from the crowd. Yeah.
It's interesting though, because there's an argument for both things. Because when I think about it, you think of someone like Steve Vai. I absolutely love that Skyscraper record he did with David Lee Roth. I thought that was an absolute masterpiece. Some of the songs are incredible, and he's always going to be seen. When that came out in the mid-late 80s, he was always going to be seen as like against Eddie Van Halen, one of the most influential guitar players that will ever have lived. And then you've got Steve Vai, working with David Lee Roth,
right?
And yeah, he could have come in and been a clone of Eddie's and been completely crucified.
Yeah.
But instead he came in with a totally different attitude from a more of a Frank Zappa, twisted left of center thing, but also with enough kind of common sense to still play good straight ahead of rock. And I'm still a huge Eddie fan, still put him way up there, but Steve Vai did an amazing job of working with David Lee Roth and not being compared.
Yeah. And the other thing with Steve Vai, I mean, it's amazing that he was able to achieve that, because that was not the first time that he had been in that situation, because he had to replace Yngwie Malmsteen in Alcatraz.
Yep.
Right, and then he was in Whitesnake.
Whitesnake, yeah.
And and then David Lee Roth. And so the fact that he was able to, even through those bands, and then later on with his solo work, to develop a really distinctive, oh, that's Steve Vai when you hear it. It's pretty incredible that he was able to do that.
Yeah, and I was like, when I first heard Flexible, wow, 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 and all that stuff. I was just like, what is this music? I remember buying Guitar Player, and it had the clear flexi disc on the front cover, little 7-inch flexi. And I remember playing that and just thinking it was the craziest music I'd ever heard. But you could tell it was somebody who came left of center through a Frank Zappa thought process. And I think I'll always love that. I'll always love guitar players that just come at it from a weird direction, and those are all the ones I've just mentioned. I mean, Robert Fripp, Jeff Beck, Brian May, all have such unique stuff. Brian May's harmony layering and melodic ideas are insane. Jeff Beck's just kind of, hey, I was keep getting the notes that, how can I make this more expressive, this one note? All those guys. Fripp with just tape delays and I think Bowie fashion. First time I heard that as a little kid, I was like, my hairs are standing on end now. I just remember thinking, what is this? Is that a guitar?
Right.
Can guitars make that sound? I thought they were like jinga jing jinga jing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have made a very good point. I hope you agree with us that individuality and creativity really is king. And a lot of these guys are technically gifted, but a lot of them, the technique is the secondary part.
Mm-hmm.
The creativity is when I hear Beck, I sometimes think I never would have thought to do that. Even if I could do it, I would never have thought to do it.
Yeah, having the great technique, but if you don't use it to create anything interesting, it's not that good.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Max, thank you ever so much.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. We should do more of these.
Yes.
We'll do more of these. If you want to see more of these, and we'll try out some new pedals and stuff like that. That would be fun. Pedals, guitars, all kinds of fun. Hey, I am at heart really just a guitar player after all. Thank you. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, tschüss, zu sehen, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, adio.